What's going on, you guys? My name is Shiraz Ahmed, and in today's video we'll be talking about inheriting IRAs and some of the rules regarding holding these beneficiary IRAs. I'll also be explaining how you can also still look at this as a solution from a cross-border perspective, specifically as it pertains to Canadian resident beneficiaries. So stay tuned. Okay, welcome back, you guys. Today we'll be talking all about inheriting IRAs. And for the purposes of today's video, an IRA can refer to a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, a rollover, a SEP, or even a simple. The process and the rules are effectively the same for all the above. The really cool part about these types of accounts is that you can name just about anyone, including a trust, as a beneficiary. You can even name your neighbor, your spouse, your children, etc. There are, however, some different sets of rules that pertain for a spouse versus a non-spouse beneficiary. So let's talk about spousal beneficiaries first, since they're frankly the most common. So this is also going to look at it from the lens of an American perspective or an American resident. So spousal beneficiaries have more flexibility than non-spousal beneficiaries. They actually have the option to roll all or part of the deceased IRA into their own individual IRA, which allows them to defer the withdrawals and taxes until they turn 72. Now, if the inherited account was already paying required distributions, and those payments would have to continue along with their original schedule until you submit a new schedule based on the inheritor's life expectancy. Non-spousal inheritors do not actually have the option of rolling over their account into an existing IRA and cannot make contributions into their inherited account. These inheritors must either take the cash as a lump sum or transfer that into a new, what we call, inherited or beneficiary IRA. The new Secure Act that was passed a couple years ago in the US means that generally inherited accounts must be cashed out within 10 years. Now, this doesn't mean that the money has to be spent. It just means that it needs to leave that inherited account and go into another account of some sort within that time frame. So you could take it all in one shot, or you could spread it out over a bunch of years. That's entirely up to you. But the previous rule about stretching it over the age of the eldest beneficiary's lifetime, unfortunately, has come to an end. Now, certain non-spousal beneficiaries may also be exempt from the 10-year rule, like minor children, for example, or even disabled individuals. Okay, so now let's look at, from a Canadian perspective, what some of the changes to the rules would be. So from a cross-border perspective, you actually may be surprised to know that Canadian residents can actually be named as beneficiaries of IRAs. And surprisingly enough, this is super common. The same spousal versus non-spousal rules will still apply in this case, so even as a non-American, you can still hold an inherited IRA and get that benefit of the Secure Act's 10-year tax deferral. That said, the major issues surrounding Canadian beneficiaries are that most US institutions are actually not allowed to hold an IRA of any type for a non-resident. So you just need to make sure that your financial institution is allowed to keep you. Secondly, as the Canadians often don't have a US Social Security number, they'll likely need to apply for an ITIN, or a US tax identifier number, and you can do this by filing a W-7 form. Now, if you're ever unsure about this process, I would actually encourage you to reach out to a qualified cross-border CPA for assistance with this step, as there are some nuances around how to go about applying for that W-7. So a common question that we get asked all the time is, can a Canadian non-spousal beneficiary roll an inherited IRA into, let's say, their own individual RRSP as what we call a 60J contribution? And the answer to this is definitely no. Only IRA contributors or spouses of contributors have the ability to qualify as a 60J RSP contribution as per the CRA. So sadly, this strategy, which is actually commonly requested, just won't work. Okay, so that just about covers the basic rules and regulations regarding inheriting IRAs, and also some of the nuances for Canadians who happen to be inheriting them as well. Cross-border wealth management is complicated because, as I've said before, it's the intersection of three sets of laws: securities law, tax law, and immigration law in two different countries. So this is why it's extremely important to seek out the appropriate counsel, whether it be a lawyer, a CPA, or even a cross-border financial advisor, if you're ever in doubt of what you need to do. As always, if you appreciate the content that I'm creating, please consider subscribing and hitting that like button. If you hit the bell icon, you'll be notified the next time I upload a new piece. If you have any topic requests, for example, please do drop me a line and I'll put my contact info at the end of this video for you. Until next time, stay safe out there, you guys. Bye for now.